This story happened approximately a year ago and revolves around my friend, whom we'll refer to as Jen, and her younger brother Sam, who was 12 years old at the time. It all began when Jen and Sam's mother discovered that her car window had been shattered one morning. Although nothing valuable was taken from the vehicle, they realized that the culprits had snatched the garage door opener, indicating their intention to return later and potentially break into the house while everyone was either away or asleep. Unbeknownst to the intruders, Sam resided in that very home and possessed an unwavering determination to catch them in the act. Over the course of the following week and a half, tension built up within the family. While the police had been regularly patrolling the area at night to ensure their safety, the criminals had not resurfaced due to a reason that escapes my memory regarding the garage doors not being chained. Nonetheless, Sam's preoccupation with the idea of apprehending the burglars persisted. Then came the fateful morning when Sam woke up with an unshakable conviction. He confidently declared to his family, "Tonight's the night. They're coming back tonight." Initially met with raised eyebrows and skepticism, his family allowed him to keep watch, albeit without expecting much. Sam meticulously prepared for the stakeout, equipping himself with an airsoft gun, walkie-talkies, and all the necessary gear. He even attempted to set up some makeshift traps using expensive tools in the garage, although he soon discovered that replicating the intricate schemes of the kid from Home Alone proved more challenging than anticipated. At 11 p.m., Sam positioned himself across the street, concealing his presence within a neighbor's bush. An hour elapsed, and his family communicated through the walkie-talkies, urging him to return indoors as it seemed unlikely that the criminals would strike that night. However, Sam remained resolute, trusting his instincts. Then, at approximately 12:30 a.m., two cars approached Sam's house from opposite directions. The vehicles slowed down as they passed, only to continue driving. This peculiar behavior raised suspicion. Shortly after, the same cars made another round, and this time, the garage door opened. It was undeniably them. Maintaining his composure, Sam discreetly captured photographs of the cars and their license plates as they passed by again. About 15 minutes later, three individuals stealthily crept up the driveway and entered the open garage. Sam immediately radioed Jen inside the house and dialed the police. Within minutes, law enforcement arrived and swiftly apprehended all three intruders, who feeble-mindedly claimed to have merely stumbled upon an open garage and decided to investigate. Had it not been for Sam's meticulous observations and his photographs, the culprits might have faced a mere warning or a charge of trespassing, as they possessed no stolen items on their persons and had cleverly left the garage door opener in one of their vehicles. However, Sam boldly presented his evidence to the police, including the descriptions and license plates of the cars. The officers conducted a brief search of the neighborhood, which promptly led them to the cars parked approximately a mile away from Sam's house. Inside the vehicles, they discovered a trove of stolen goods totaling hundreds of dollars, alongside a staggering collection of approximately 20 garage door openers. As a result, the culprits now faced multiple charges and were swiftly taken into custody. Sam's vigilance and quick thinking had successfully brought them to justice, ultimately safeguarding his family and the community. Kudos to you, Sam. About a year ago, during this time, I witnessed my mother's final days as she succumbed to the hardships she had faced throughout her life. Despite having very little left to her name, she ensured that I inherited her car, a dilapidated vehicle with a reliable engine. Although it was practically unsellable, it was her sole possession and gift to me. Following her passing, I received a surprising call from the welfare agency that had been providing support to my mother. They informed me that a sum of money was allocated for my mother's spouse or dependents to cover the expenses of her final arrangements. This news brought some relief, as I had shouldered the entire cost of her funeral, which had taken a toll on my finances. However, my eligibility for the funds was contested since I fell outside the agency's timeframe for dependents. Instead, due to my parents' long-ago divorce, the agency intended to grant the money to my younger sister, an irresponsible and unreliable individual who had abandoned our mother during her illness, stolen from her to support her drug habit, and only made a chaotic appearance at her deathbed to unleash her anger. They informed me that if the money wasn't given to my sister, it would simply disappear. I found myself torn, unsure of what course of action to take. Then I remembered that my sister's car had recently been impounded. With a certain detached resolve, I made my decision. I provided the agency with my sister's contact information and enlisted my father's help in getting in touch with her. I offered to sell her the car for a significant portion of the money she was entitled to, an offer that, all things considered, wasn't a terrible deal. Though she attempted to negotiate, her desperate need for a vehicle worked in my favor. A week later, amidst her insistence on meeting at dubious locations, we finally met in a public spot to carry out the exchange. I had a friend accompany me for added security, and he could only gape in disbelief at the unfolding events. The following chain of events is best presented as a series of incidents. Firstly, it turned out that she had squandered her share of the money on a substantial amount of meth, leaving her completely high and incoherent. Secondly, upon taking possession of the car, she discovered that the fuel tank was nearly empty. She protested, and the three unsavory individuals she had brought along with her were itching for a confrontation. However, their aggression was futile in the face of our presence in a bustling supermarket parking lot. As they drove away, I revealed to my friend that I had been unable to locate the car's title, and it was still registered under my deceased mother's name, certainly not in the glove compartment of that vehicle. Furthermore, my sister possessed an expired license and had an outstanding warrant for evading parole. In the heat of the moment, I almost dialed the non-emergency line to report the car as stolen. Considering the perilous state she was in, driving under the influence and endangering lives, it would have been the responsible course of action. However, my father had implored me to give her a chance. Regardless, the outcome remained the same. A week later, the car was discovered abandoned and subsequently impounded, much like her previous vehicle. Moreover, she was apprehended, learning that this time she would face real prison time instead of a brief stay at a youth correctional facility. She remains incarcerated to this day and will be for several years. While I may not have personally placed her there, I alleviated a burden from my shoulders and reclaimed what rightfully should have been mine. This story took place in my early 20s in the section of a town in which most of the houses and apartments are rented to college students. It's a fun place to live when you're that age, but I couldn't imagine having to live there now. Anyway, I digress. I don't drive, so I was a frequent walker and I was frequently on one illicit substance or another, but this particular day, for one reason or another, I was completely sober. Although I was sober, I was in a particularly good mood. I had a little bit of a skip in my step. I was off in my own head daydreaming about something pleasant. At this point, it's important for me to tell you that I have a nervous tic that is similar to Stevie Wonder's head movement. The tic gets worse under certain circumstances and almost goes away under others. When I'm daydreaming, it goes crazy, also sleepy, or lost in thought. When I'm super focused, the tic goes away almost completely. It's also important to note that I'm unaware of my head movement. My eyes move opposite. So I'm walking near the hospital that sits in the center of this section of town. I'm daydreaming and my nervous tic is likely going crazy. I spot a hospital security car. Looks just like a cop car. Naturally, I snap to attention. My tic likely disappears. The guard goes by, but he clearly goes slow when he sees me. I'm nervous, but not for any reason as I was sober, had no arrest warrants, and wasn't carrying any contraband. A minute or so after the guard's car is out of sight, I calm back down and almost immediately start daydreaming again. Likely tic comes right back. A few minutes later, again, I notice the security guard's car, and again, likely my tic goes away. The guard pulls over to the side and stops me. At this point, I'm a little more nervous. I don't like dealing with authority, and I'm sure this makes the security guard think I'm up to no good. It turns out he's a cop, off duty perhaps, but a cop still. I didn't have my wallet on me, so when he asked to see my ID, I didn't have it. He was convinced I was on drugs. Like I say, I've had cops think my nervous tic meant I was on drugs many times, but I've never been on anything when a cop thought I was. He ordered me to sit on the curb while he called the city police for backup. I was an obedient little citizen. I sat quietly. The guard asked me for my social security number, name, and birth date. I gave them to him. He then would read them back to me wrong. I'd correct him. We went through this routine for 10 minutes. Finally, the actual on-duty police officer showed up. This is not a calming thing for me. The cop comes up and talks to the guard, then to me. He asks me for my information. I told him. He asks me what I'm doing. I tell him I was just walking by on my way to a coffee house and I was detained by that guy for no reason. The cop tells me to hold tight and he'll be right back with me. He goes to his car. He stays there a minute or two. Then he comes back and tells me that I can be on my way. As I'm leaving, I hear the two of them talking. The cop basically tells the guy that I hadn't done anything and they had no reason to hold me. I get down to the coffee house and I'm so mad by what had happened, so obviously it's what I talk about. My buddies convince me that I need to do something about this. Now, I'm not the litigious type, but I thought I could at least announce my displeasure. I wrote a letter to the hospital administrators. I explained that I was walking on a public sidewalk next to their hospital and was illegally detained by one of their officers based solely upon a documented medical condition. I told them that while I had that sort of thing happen to me previously, I thought that a hospital would be a place where I could count on not being discriminated against based on a medical condition. About a week later, I walked by the same hospital and I saw the said security guard. Did he have a nice security car anymore? No, he did not. Now he was guarding a parking lot. On the night shift, I will always remember purposefully walking under a bright streetlight, gaining his attention, smiling real big and walking away. On a related note, for the next year or so, I would receive a phone call from a different vice president of the hospital apologizing and obviously trying to make sure I wasn't interested in suing. I got a call almost once every 3 weeks for the next year. This just happened maybe 5 minutes ago, and I think it's hilarious. I'm the facility manager for a building, responsible for everything that happens within it. My boss made it clear that it's my duty to maintain order and ensure smooth operations. While I strive to hold people accountable, I do so with a firm but fair approach. Before I arrived, there was no facility manager, resulting in chaos among both clients and employees. In the 4 months I've been here, my performance has garnered praise from my boss, who has consistently supported me. I consider her the best boss I've ever had, and my reputation reflects my efficient management style. Unfortunately, there's a tenant in the building who perfectly fits the Karen stereotype. She works as a family services counselor and has nothing to do with our group. Karen constantly complains about various issues, causing headaches for my boss on a daily basis. She shares an office with another woman who is starting to adopt similar behavior, earning the nickname Karen in Training, or KIT. Recently, I conducted a Keycard audit, realizing that 75 keycards were missing. Many of these belonged to former employees who still had access to all doors, dating as far back as 2015. Recognizing the security risk, I took action and deleted numerous keycards, particularly those with unusual names or mere room numbers. In the process, I accidentally deleted KIT's keycard information since it wasn't registered under her name. Consequently, she approached me to report that her keycard wasn't working, coincidentally in the presence of Karen. I promptly fixed KIT's keycard and accompanied her to check if it worked properly. As we stepped outside the office, we found Karen waiting and complaining to my boss about her own malfunctioning keycard. Karen eventually left, prompting my boss to roll her eyes in exasperation. With a smile, I assured my boss that I would handle the situation. I decided to investigate further and went downstairs to review the system. To my surprise, Karen's keycard was functioning perfectly fine. In fact, it showed that she possessed a master keycard, which raised concerns. Taking immediate action, I modified Karen's access permissions, restricting her to only her own room and revoking her master access. I then returned to my boss's office, which conveniently neighbored Karen and KIT's workspace. I silently signaled my boss to listen and subtly opened their door. Addressing Karen, I said, "Hey, Karen, I checked your keycard in the system and everything seems to be working fine. However, according to company regulations, as you're not a contractor or an employee, I'm unable to grant you master access. Therefore, I had to limit your access to this room only. I can't have you interrupting others on official business. Thanks for bringing the issue to my attention. With a wink, I effectively conveyed my message. Karen began to protest, arguing that she required the master keycard for specific reasons. I calmly replied, I apologize, but as the facility manager, granting you access to everything is beyond your scope. If you need access outside of your designated area, you'll have to contact me. All right, great, thanks, bye. Without giving her a chance to continue, I playfully closed the door mid-sentence. My boss, quietly chuckling from her office, gave me an approving air high five.